Nice. We are doing it. What's up, guys? I am James Hake, and we are streaming live. It is 9 o'clock. 9:00. Dang, the new guy's fast. And it is Tuesday, July 21st, 2020. I'm streaming on D Live and Twitter, which is really Periscope, YouTube, etc. Facebook, everywhere. Appreciate you guys joining me. Thank you. And you can join also via audio feed by going to either thehakereport.com/show or jlptalk.com if you're used to going over there. That's jesseleepeterson.com/show. He is the executive producer, helps make this, the Hake Report, happen. No Jesse, no Hake Report. Dang, so you have Jesse to thank for me. Thank you guys to the subscribers. You can call in 888-775-3773. You know, subscribing on D Live is actually paying a donation to my channel, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys for doing that. That's a nice place where you can show some support. It's very simple. You know, since YouTube has taken down my my ability to accept your super chats, they don't even want you to pay me money. And they get a cut from it, too. I think they got 30%. That's what I heard. But anyways, I have quite a show for you, including talking about a little bit of white history and some of the challenges faced by many white people. And we should all love white people and all people. But if you don't love the white people, as Jesse Lee Peterson pointed out, you love no one. So I'm going to get to your calls. 888-775-3773. But first, let's just get right on with the show.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
Hey guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
So, how are you guys doing? Another quick way that you can support me live or afterwards is by going to streamlabs.com/thehakereport/V2, and then you click play. And you can, if you're used to being on YouTube, you can go into the live chat there. You won't miss the live chat, and you can give a donation. You won't see the donation in the live chat, unfortunately, because I don't stream through Streamlabs. Maybe I could change that. I don't know. But I don't know if it would be feasible to do that. But I will see your super chat, and I will read it on here. Just a little side note. Streamlabs.com/thehakereport. And then you have to put the /V2, or maybe it just goes right to my live video feed if I'm going live. But otherwise, it tends to go to a place where you can tip, but you can't see the video feed. Whatever. I would like to, you know, make my stuff more palatable for the YouTube preferences. You know, they're a bunch of liberals. They can't stand telling the truth. The whole cold, hard truth. For example, you know, I have a title, something like Blacks Setting Whites on Fire. It's very factual. It's like straightforward, but that could be incendiary. You know, I don't want to incite anger towards blacks just because blacks have had anger incited in them towards whites. I don't want to do the opposite extreme, but that's not what I was doing. I was just cherry picking some data, pointing it out, as the media cherry picks data and points it out and speculates that it may be racist, when in fact usually these white on black killings are justified. They're such as Darren Wilson, Trayvon Martin, stuff like that. But anyways, that's a side note. It is White History Month. It is the 21st already. It's more than 2/3 over this month, White History Month. So you know, there are some serious, and then I will get to your calls. The lines are already full. So call early and often, guys. But, you know, whites are under attack not only from outside, but also from within. Like, weakness is a major plague in the white community and in the so-called Christian community. I was thinking yesterday, Christians have become just like the world, or maybe a little bit less like, you know, but basically at heart just like the world. And that's why they're being pushed around so easily, because they have this false version of love that's amounts to kissing up to evil. And so the evil continues to just push the whites around. It's ridiculous, and the Christians around. It's ridiculous. Some emergency symptoms facing the white people in America and around the world. Not just South Africa. South Africa is a major symptom. Killing whites like crazy, taking their land like crazy, hatred incited towards whites like crazy. And, you know, it's encouraging to see there are whites there who are standing for what's right. Some of them are standing in the wrong way with anger. There was one guy who got mad at a woman in a restaurant. I think it was a few years ago, maybe even several years ago. It went viral because somebody recorded it. And he, like, grabbed the woman's child who had been maybe bullying his child or something like that. And people were putting all their scrutiny on the whites when both parties were wrong. It's so typical of the world to have a false view of justice, a totally false view of justice. If you look at what God did in the Garden of Eden when the Adam and Eve each did wrong, he blamed each one for the wrong that they did. He blamed the man for listening to the woman. He blamed the woman for listening to the serpent. And he blamed the serpent for being evil himself too. Isn't that interesting? He punished each one. But nowadays the fake Christians want to put it all on Adam. Haven't you noticed that? That's a false version of justice. You have to blame each one for where they go wrong. Yes, Adam's supposed to lead, but they're not showing leadership. They're showing basically like simpery, cuckery. Some of the symptoms, though, worldwide and nationwide, people are not getting married young. In the old school days, people got married young. And people, you can say, oh, they're not, because they're not mature enough now anymore. Well, but that's the solution then, is to make them be mature earlier. Make them work, make them take care of themselves, don't let them stay home to go to quote-unquote college. So ridiculous. They're not having lots of children. And this is actually anybody who gets Americanized, really, they become this way too. Blacks have, I think they've had a declining birth rate, believe it or not. Even though they're still replacing themselves, unlike the whites who are not having enough babies to replace themselves as they die off, blacks have a declining birth rate, I heard. I think it's because they're getting more into education and the females are getting into feminism, stuff like that. So not marrying young, not having lots of children, not being mature at a young age. You know, the founders, you know, I saw a tweet from Cernovich. I follow Cernovich on Twitter. This guy, Mike Cernovich, he's a journalist. And every now and then he makes a really good point. I think he pointed out that in the founding fathers, so-called founding fathers, I think he might have said some of them were in their 30s when they were doing this Revolutionary War thing. Wow. And think about some of us who are in our 30s. We act like we're in our 20s or 18s or less, you know. There are people that are so immature. And then some people act mature, but then when it comes down to it, they're really not. Also, a problem facing whites, a lack of strong personalities. And some of them have strong personalities, but both the weak personalities and the strong personalities lack a strong character, strong morale, strong in body. Some of the people exercise and get strong. but it's become so typical to see an out of shape white dude who just pours himself into his work. It's so typical. Man, like totally neglecting the body, keeping the body strong and healthy. It's crazy. Some extreme examples of the symptoms, and these are symptoms, not problems. Suicide. Suicide going up amongst whites, especially the middle-aged men, is what I hear. Declining population, I mentioned already. Very widespread problem. And the opioid crisis. People overdosing on opioids. And I hate how the world is handling things like suicide, opioids, the declining, the problem with people getting together and making families and having successful relationships. The solution is, dating apps. Or setting people up together and living together. All that stuff. Those are fake solutions. Suicide prevention hotlines, so-called mental health awareness and mental health counseling. That shows you that they don't care about the truth, about actually solving the problem. I argued with this black RINO guy who is a nice guy, but he is a RINO. Maybe less so than some, but I still insist that he is a RINO. He still hates whites. This guy who still believes in racism, Jeff Charles. I argued with him about blacks don't care about black-on-black crime because the problem is not getting solved. They have these false solutions such as, keep the kids busy and out of trouble. Yes, they should be working. That does help, right? But they're not addressing the family crisis, the morality crisis, the hatred of white people and of each other, and the hatred of the women towards the children and the men and all that stuff, and the hatred amongst the kids. Don't make the black kids angry is the title of Colin Flaherty's book about black mob violence and black violent crime, black on white crime and all that stuff. Whoa! I'm being told the Institute of Family Studies says the black fertility rate is 1.89, down from 2.15. And isn't it 2.3 or something like that? It's the replacement rate? 2 point something. You're supposed to have 2.5 kids to replace yourselves. Because the man and the woman have to make more than 2 kids to replace themselves. Because, some people are just going to die off, even if they survive childbirth. They're going to die early or whatever. You have to make more than just yourselves. Unless you're Jesse Lee Peterson, you're never dying, right? Then you can just make one and just stay living. And then you encourage other men to become right. White fertility rate is down to 1.82 from 2.14 from 2008 to 2016. Dang. Both sub-replacement fertility rate. See, I thought that blacks were a declining population, but then it seemed like it was not true, and then it is true. 2.2. You're supposed to make 2.2. Nick says anything below 2.1 is bad. But Derek, Big Bump, says 2.2. I don't know. You're supposed to have 5 or 10 kids. My parents had 5 children that we know of. No, my parents, I don't even think they had sex before marriage. I don't think anybody in my family did. Maybe like nobody in my immediate family, I don't think. I could be wrong, but I don't want to know if they did. But they had 5 children, and people were like, "Oh, wow, big family." That's not a big family. That's like, okay, that's a normal family. We knew a Mormon family. It seemed like every other white family was Mormons in my neighborhood, and they had 7 kids. And, in the South, they had 10 kids. You're supposed to have more kids, and they're not expensive. They start working and helping around the house and around the farm or whatever. Nowadays, most of us don't have farms. But the kids start taking care of each other. If they're raised right. Well, taking care of them the wrong way sometimes. Meaning, like, not getting along. I don't mean anything inappropriate. But... And this, the use of birth control, so-called birth control, and all that stuff. It is, I agree with the Catholics. I don't think people should be using birth control. I believe in like the all natural stuff, except that I do drink caffeine. But fake solutions to like at root, it's like the spiritual problem. And I hate the way that they're handling the opioid crisis. Sympathy and casting these people who are overdosing as victims when they victimize themselves, honestly. And yes, you can prosecute these companies, these pharmaceutical companies, and you can blame whoever's pushing this stuff. You can do that, but you also have to blame the people who are useful idiots listening to, I wanted to say amazing call with a lady last week when I talked about abortion. She listened to a doctor in Germany about, maybe her child is not alive anymore. And so therefore you should take these medications and get rid of it, right? Something along those lines. People don't need to be listening to doctors and trusting the advice of so-called experts who do not have their best interests at heart or in mind, even if they seem nice. All these drugs for ADHD and autism and stuff. Some of these are crazy drugs, and bipolar disorder and all those things. It ends up being worse. It's just treating the symptom and creating more problems. It's like handing out condoms at a church. It's exacerbating the problems. It's kind of increasing the mass shooter so-called epidemic. I call it a so-called epidemic because I think it is overhyped, but it is truly evil, and it is truly happening. Some of you guys think every mass shooting is a false flag. I don't necessarily think that. I really don't think that. But the use of it is false, definitely. They exploit every evil thing like crazy. They being all the phony people who don't have real solutions to these symptoms. And so prosecute the companies and whoever's pushing the opioids, but also like, don't be feeling sorry for the people overdosing. I know somebody who overdosed and died. Crazy. And I think more and more people are starting to know people like that. And a lot of people know people who have committed suicide. I know somebody who committed suicide. Somebody from high school. I wasn't close with this guy, but it's crazy. It's silly how they're so phony. And then this MRA stuff, whites becoming victims, turning to men going their own way, or turning to just blaming other groups that are evil, but have to blame ourselves. And more than just blame ourselves, overcome it. This is like one instance where people talking about blaming the doctors and companies for whites being addicted to opioids. I don't agree with that. You have to blame the whites for being suckers for that. Anyways, that's why I'm happy that I'm working where I'm working, because it's for a man who's pushing dealing with the root problem that everybody can relate to. Dang. This MRA murderer guy. Before I get to calls, let me quickly cover this story. I talked with Jesse Lee Peterson about this in hour 1 of the Jesse Lee Peterson show today. But what is up with this? People were speculating that this son of a judge, 20-year-old son of a judge who was murdered at her house along with her husband, was almost murdered, maybe gonna be dying, who knows. Salas, the wild-eyed woman. Oh man, people with wild eyes. This is Esther Salas, Obama judge. Whoa. Her son was murdered by this guy, allegedly, who was a men's rights attorney. And men's rights people have a legitimate gripe because the world is anti-men. It's anti-child. It's really pretending to be pro-woman, but in reality, it is anti-even female. It's anti-human scum. So this guy, what's his name again? Roy Den Hollander. D-E-N is his middle name. Roy Den Hollander. He was found dead. He was a white guy, I think. Found dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound 60 miles away after allegedly posing as a FedEx delivery man, showing up at the door of this woman and her family's house. This feminist judge, Obama judge. Her 20-year-old son, he's supposed to be a men's rights advocate. He murders 2 or 3 men, allegedly. At least seemingly for sure, this 20-year-old young man, who was the son of these people, these judge and prosecutor and defense attorney. He was wearing a mask, by the way, COVID mask. I don't like that. I don't like how they're wearing these masks and then it helps preserve for COVID, right? And it helps preserve your anonymity. But anyways, they figured out who it was, apparently. But knocked at the door, posing as a delivery man, shoots the 20-year-old young man, and then shoots the husband of this judge, who was working on an Epstein case, right? And people were speculating that it had to do with the Epstein case, but that she was working on. She was going to be presiding over. And it may, who knows. But this guy, this murder suspect, anti-feminist lawyer, kills 2 men, or 3 men maybe. Talk about going against what your purpose is, right? This is alleged, right? This is all alleged, right? So if it's true. And it seems quite plausible because this man was propping up anger as a valid thing that feminists fear an angry man. And so he was thinking that anger was a good thing. Somebody says, I can't get over the fact that you have to wear a mask in a bank. Yeah. And you know, it's quite possible, too, that this man did self-inflicted his gunshot thing. He did kill himself. Because imagine if you kill somebody, a lot of people kill somebody and then go off and kill themselves somewhere. Because, they can't believe what they just did. And they don't want to face the consequences. They can't face down the guilt. They kill themselves. Just evil on top of evil. This man is reportedly also a suspect in the murder of another more decent men's rights attorney, I would argue. Marc Angelucci, whom I covered last week. This guy. Looks like Baywatch right there. But this guy, I covered him last week as a white history hero because he spoke out against Black Lives Matter. He was like a fair-minded, well-meaning attorney who his friend was getting physically abused. I laugh, but it's evil. His male friend back in 1997 or so was getting physically abused by his female wife. This friend's wife was abusing the friend physically, meaning beating up on him. And so he wanted to go to a shelter, a domestic violence shelter, but it's a bunch of women. And so he sued on his behalf to help the men, because domestic violence is a two-way street. So-called domestic violence. I don't even like that term. Men and women fighting, that should be what it's called. Or women attacking men. And then occasionally the men will hit back, and they hit back good and hard. And it's a bad situation. But this fake delivery man tactic, this is scary. A delivery man comes up to your door, you're thinking, oh, delivery. Poof, shot and killed this Marc Angelucci. Allegedly, this guy also killed Marc Angelucci. And Marc Angelucci was also a men's rights attorney. So I don't get what it is. And meanwhile, YouTube is shutting down this guy's speech. I don't know if YouTube shut down his speech before or after he allegedly committed these murders. But honestly, it's a shame. They should leave it up so that we can see what they're saying and deal with it. But they don't want us to deal with, in some cases, he may be saying factual information. And in some cases, he may be promoting anger and stuff like that as a good thing when it's not. And meanwhile, the SPLC is being propped up as a valid source. The Southern Poverty Law Center, a communist organization, according to a man who is an expert on communism, Bill Lockwood. And so I do believe that SPLC, I mean, their tactics are just defamatory and malicious and not self-reflective. They don't look at themselves. They just always attack the conservatives, the whites, the Christians, and then occasionally the black nationalists too. Anyways, I got to get to some calls and I got to read some super chats. And then I'm going to talk about, there are encouraging signs in the outside world of people standing up. Trump is fighting back. Every time I see him talk, he's fighting back. I don't know about the actions that he's taking because I'm not watching all the time. Colonel Allen West is fighting for Texas. And as far as trust goes, I trust Colonel Allen West more so than I trust Ted Cruz, who's also sounding the alarm about possibly Texas turning blue. They've been fighting to turn Texas blue for ages. But Ted Cruz he's too weak to deal with anything. I don't think that I don't know what's wrong with him. But I guess it's the same wrong that's wrong with many of us. But anyway, I'm going to talk about that and Arizona possibly turning blue, demographics. Yeah. St. Louis couple charged. And oh my gosh, there's a bunch of black female prosecutors who were all supporting themselves 6 or 7 months ago against the white man. Evgeny Crosby, 2020, gave a diamond and said, "Hake, Marcus left Jesse's trash and is now in yours." What do you mean by our trash? Is he picking through our stuff trying to dig up whatever? Someone get Bill, gave a couple of diamonds. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And Agent Black gave another super chat on streamlabs.com/the Hake Report. Thank you, man. And said, blessings. Thank you, Agent Black. Appreciate that. So let me quickly get to John, a first-time caller in Texas. John, how are you doing?
Good. Amazing. How are you doing?
Doing fine. What's up?
So kind of just to go over what you were just saying, and kind of just a general idea, I feel like the more we get hung up on all of this, we get diverted away from like the actual overarching problem, which is the encroachment of communism and especially China into our society. Because and I totally agree with what you're saying about all this. I mean, the structure of the black family has crumbled, and demographic shifting and stuff. But I feel like those are problems that need to be dealt with later, because at this point we're just at a battle for the existence at our country. It's at this point it's not even whether we're going to excel or decline. It's either we're going to completely crash or we're going to cover. You know what I mean?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't agree that the overarching problem is the encroachment of communism. I think that's a symptom. That's able to be happen because of the weakness of men.
Yeah. I just feel like and I agree with that. I feel like but at this point, as where we're standing, it's too late to fix those things, and like the light of because I feel like with focusing on race and stuff like that, it diverts away from the true problems that we're having, like at this very moment. I feel like focusing on race at this point is a division tactic, whereas the real division and the real crumbling of the country comes from these lockdowns, because at that point, with the lockdowns, it's good versus evil, but with race, they're trying to make it white versus black. And I feel like the lockdowns are what really set up for this situation to happen.
I mean, all of the stuff that you're naming, the race division and the lockdown stuff, all of that is symptoms of people going along and believing experts and all that stuff. If people if people thought for themselves and didn't believe experts, they wouldn't fall for the false narrative of Black Lives Matter. Nobody would fall for it because it's such a ridiculous concept. And the lockdown stuff, it wouldn't even be a temptation to be so overprotective of people that you're gonna shut down the economy and destroy people because you want to lock down the country.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm just saying, like, do you think pointing out the facts of how we got here is the correct solution, or pointing out the fact that, I mean, the Democrats have turned to just full communist. I mean, if you saw Biden's new plan with Bernie, that's basically just full communism.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying, that those are the symptoms. Like, communism is, you know, the symptom of all the other things that led us to this point. But do you think it's worth pointing those out, or do you think it's better to tell people, maybe like touch on the points that this is why we're here, but really get to the point of this is where we're at. We have to prevent this situation.
I don't know what you're saying.
What I'm trying to say is, I feel like focusing on, I think the Black Lives, what I'm really trying to say is, I think that the Black Lives Matter movement and focusing on all of that is a diversion to not think about the coronavirus.
I mean, you can say that about anything. You can, what the point is, though, John, you have to tell the truth, you have to tell the truth at the right time about the right things in the right way. So you have to just have wisdom. I don't know. It sounds like you're intellectually trying to figure out which thing we should be focusing on or whatever, when I don't know really what it sounds like that's your point, but it sounds like an intellectual, like, tactical thing.
I mean, sorta. I just don't think it's worthwhile focusing on race at this point, when I think the real issue is, I mean, what you guys talk about on Jesse's show, it shouldn't be white versus black. It's good versus evil, like that type of stuff. I personally, I think that this isn't really. I get what you're saying. We have to tell.
Are you a Christian, John?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, the best one I can be. I just think that the coronavirus. I mean, and so what I originally was, but I kind of changed what I was going to talk about when I heard what you're talking about. But we're being straight up lied to about the coronavirus. Like, at this point, it's not even misinterpretation of the facts or whatever, or, I mean, it's openly known, and they're not even, Trump and Pence aren't even reporting these things that they know, but that are out there about the CDC miscounting and overcounting deaths and cases. Many states and the CDC have been counting antibodies as positive cases.
Yeah, I've heard stuff like this. I've heard stuff like this, and I've even reported on it. And then Trump retweeted Chuck Woolery, who said the same thing. Chuck Woolery, well, he deleted his Twitter account after his son got corona, but he tweeted that the CDC is lying, and then Trump retweeted him. So I don't know if you're telling the whole truth about Trump and Pence, but yeah, we know that there's lies. We've been saying that they're lying about it.
So why would they be deliberately lying? It just seems that all of this has... Because
that's what they do. They lie about everything.
I know, but it seems like this has lined up in a perfect manner, where we had coronavirus, they stuck us in their homes, got people bored with no jobs whatsoever, and now they're focusing on race because they know people are enraged. They know if people have the time to go do whatever. And I just feel like this whole topic of race, and they're beating the horse to death with this race thing.
They've been doing it for 100 years. That's why we have to keep telling the truth about it. You can't just ignore it. You're saying that we should focus on corona and not race. How are you going to convince idiots who are stuck on race that, oh, you're stuck on race, but we should really be dealing with the corona lie? You have to tell the truth about everything, John.
I mean, telling the truth about that, I guess.
Yeah. Anyways, appreciate it, man. You are right. They are lying, but Trump is pretty much from what I can tell, trying to tell the truth too about it. So,
yeah.
Anyways,
I just wish he did it in a more professional manner, not on Twitter.
Oh, no, I love his Twitter. I do like when I hear him talk. It's very encouraging. So appreciate it, John. Call again.
Right.
Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
You as well. Let me quickly get to German or Herman. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Out of Massachusetts. German, it's good to hear from you again. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, Herman. Herman.
All right. Yes. It's good to hear from you. What's up?
You too, man. Nah, I was not too long ago, I just started thinking, if you're black and you're with Black Lives Matter, if you see someone that's on the Trump side, why is it that you want to jump, kill, loot, whatever it is to that person?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this brought me to the thought.
And they hate Kanye, by the way.
Right. So this is the thought that's starting to grow on me. Black Lives Matter is the new Nazi party.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, because it's the same.
And Antifa are their brown shirts.
Right. Yeah. It's the same spirit, just a different color.
Yeah.
See, it's a spiritual battle. And these black people, I think the devil's attacking. He's now using black people, and these people are just sleeping and going along with it. All types of color with it.
Yeah.
Everybody's scared of them. It's like, yo, this is it's getting a little stupid. It's gonna get worse if they don't stop. You understand me?
Yeah, I mean, you have to blame the RINOs for not pointing out how evil and hateful they are. The only person that I've heard call them hateful, really, as a politician, is President Trump. He called it a hate symbol, right? A hate symbol next to that was painted in front of Trump Tower in New York. Everybody else is kissing up as though they have any legitimacy at all. No, they don't have legitimacy. You treat them with respect, with common respect as human beings by telling them the truth that they're idiots. You know, and if you want to call them idiots, like if you're so led by the Spirit, right? But you tell them the truth, not this kiss-up stuff. You're right.
Right. And the thing is, I'm seeing, though, and it's true what Dr. Jesse Peterson says, it's all really an attack on men.
Yeah.
This organization is run by three, let me say it again, lesbians.
Right.
You understand? It's three lesbian women who absolutely hate men.
Yeah.
So it's all like a tactic. It's a devilish tactic. All we got to do is return to God and get back to logic. Like, we got to cut this bullshit out, man. Excuse my language.
You know, and they hate themselves. These women.
Exactly, they're doing it to themselves. I just put up a few videos on my Facebook. They made this mural on the ground. I'm a talented dude. I play 4 instruments. I can teach all 4. I sing. Art is a thing I love since I was 6 years old. So they painted this beautiful thing. It says Black Lives Matter, but each letter has so much detail. They spend hours on each letter. Each letter has a freaking artist. So my thing is, if they really care about you, they don't care about the talent because they just gave you hours to put it on the middle of the street where people drive over.
Yeah, good point.
So that's just the beginning of disrespect. So I put on my video, is it okay if I just look me up? Is it okay if I say that on Facebook?
Yeah, go ahead and say your Facebook.
Yeah, just look me up German and then put Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the one with the America flag on the back.
Okay.
In the background.
All right.
Look me up. But anyway, it's disrespectful. They're all doing it to themselves, but then they blame Trump, but they're the ones killing each other. You understand me? So I'm not with the Black Lives Matter. Trump 2020, And I love country western Tuesdays.
Nice. Right
I wanted
on,
to
man.
say that earlier.
Happy White History
Yeah.
Month to you.
Happy
Herman.
White History Month. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
And God bless America. Latinos for Trump. And God bless everybody.
All right. Take care, man.
Amen, brother. Yes, sir.
All right. That's nice, and that's true. I was telling you yesterday about how they're fat. Like Jesse Lee Peterson points out, they are fat, they are angry, and they are lesbians. And being those things is the worst thing for you. And the worst thing, and the people that they support, you know, the supposed victims, in many cases, are the worst people that you wouldn't want to support. What a shame. And I haven't seen Black Lives Matter say a word in favor of that black former officer, 70-something years old, who was executed by in Minneapolis, Missouri, I think it was, by David Dorn. Was that his name? I'm blanking on his name, but he was a retired police chief, killed by a looter. He was trying to defend his friend's pawn shop or something. It's crazy. What a mess. And I'm going to get to these other black females who are not, they're also supporters of Black Lives Matter, but they are in the government. It is crazy that these people have gotten into the government, and meanwhile they criticize, oh, white man doing this and that. But then they align as a bunch of black women, and they are just a group of black women perpetrating all their self-interests onto society. They're doing what they accuse the group of white men of doing. They're doing exactly what they accuse the so-called bunch of white men of doing. So corrupt. I'm going to talk about that. It came out like earlier this year. Let me quickly get to Matt in Texas. First time caller. Matt, what's up?
What's up, man?
Nothing. Are you on speakerphone?
All right, I just took you off speaker.
All right, appreciate it. Go for it.
So, I was curious if you've heard anything about the coins running out in the state of Texas. Apparently, it's a nationwide thing.
I have not heard anything about that. So somebody is stealing it? Is that what you're implying?
No, apparently the Fed's not making any coins anymore.
Oh, because
So
they just
literally
want
you
bills,
walk
huh?
into yeah, and then if they owe you change, they tell you, well, we'll just put it on your Kroger account.
That is messed up.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering. I mean, I've seen them in Home Depot stores, Lowe's, big retail outfits, and all of a sudden we're magically out of coins.
It just reminds me of like the decline of society, where like Cape Town, South Africa, running out of water, or California, Southern California specifically, having a drought because they didn't want to build up the reservoirs. The former Governor Jerry Brown didn't build up the reservoirs and prepare for the future or prepare for hard times. And, money is getting cheaper, meaning it's less valuable. And so now it costs more.
Perhaps?
And so they're just going to bigger and bigger bills. You go to the ATM store and you want to pull out $100, instead of giving you 20s or even 20s and 10s, they give you a $100 bill. It's ridiculous. Like, what am I going to do with this? Some places don't even accept that, or, anyway, after certain hours. So you're right. It is like they're just letting society become just cheapened, and it's horrible.
It's just the timing. The timing, really, this is going to happen now with all this corona crap.
Yeah.
And right before an election, now we magically don't have any coins? Seriously? Where exactly did they go?
Well, I don't know, maybe they're all in people's houses because people don't carry change nowadays. They just pay with a card, like the millennials and all of us, younger people, pay with a card, whereas like the old school people like to carry change and they give exact change if they can.
Yeah, that's true.
And so the culture
true.
has degenerated. This is really a sign. It sounds so petty, right? But it's really a sign of degeneration. Yeah.
I guess, man. But yeah, ask any callers and just see how widespread this is, just out of curiosity.
Okay. Appreciate the tip. It's funny, but it's scary. Take care, man. I will be getting to more of your calls. 888-775-3773. Take Care Business Bear says, what places don't accept $100 bills? They just use the marks on it and let you be on your way. Meaning you check to make sure it's real? No, there's places, especially after hours, right? Because, I don't know, they don't want to have to look. They don't want to have to be looking. Meanwhile, you pull out your gun to rob them or whatever using a fake bill. And hundreds are not the only bills that are faked. Because allegedly, George Floyd was passing a fake 20. Knowingly or unknowingly, I don't know. But he tried to do it once. According to what I read, he tried to go in once, walked back outside, waited a little bit, and then tried to go back in and use the same fake bill that he was already told it was fake. That's what I heard. Am I wrong? Did I read somebody else's story like that? I think it was George Floyd. Just a side note. I mean, he had a lot of fentanyl in his system. Is that an opioid, fentanyl? Speaking of taking on the whites disease. Crazy. So, don't get, in the last 15 minutes of this first hour, let me just tell you guys, don't get left behind. You know the movie Left Behind? Never mind. I don't even want to bring that up. Forget I said that. But even if there's this point that Jesse Lee Peterson makes a lot, and it's a good point. Even if President Donald Trump wins the re-election, which most likely he will, because he's fighting to win, and they're fighting to lose. And when I say they're fighting to lose, the evil people, the Democrats and the RINOs who are turning on him, they're pretty unmasked. People are noticed. I think many normal people who may be deluded, thinking, oh, I'm a nice person, but I'm a Democrat. But I'm going to wake up and become a Republican, right? Or whatever. Many people are getting their eyes opened by the blatant, in-your-face evil of, like, Black Lives Matter, calling everybody racist, Antifa, destroying stores and government property and hurling stuff at cops. I saw crazy footage of stuff getting thrown at these officers. I think, and some of the officers were catching it, but it was just endless, just stuff flying at them. Coke cans, sticks, who knows what else, I think. With all that evil, I have to believe that people are waking up. I'm pretty sure. People are waking up to seeing that evil and supporting Trump. So I think that Trump will Molotov cocktails, too, and sticks and rocks, according to Sean Hannity of Fox News. And he's not a liar, at least not in terms of reporting factual information on news. So even if President Trump wins, if whites get our White History Month, you know, by presidential decree after he gets reelected, if Colonel Allen West, which I think he did, he won as chairman of the Republican Party, the state Republican Party of Texas. That man he's probably the next to Jesse Lee Peterson and Clarence Thomas. He is one of the strongest black men for what's actually right, as opposed to these so-called black conservatives who still hate whites and basically they're RINOs. This man is not a RINO for everything that I've seen. Colonel Allen West. If he turns Texas's major cities like Dallas and Houston and Austin, you know, those are liberal cities now. One of them even has a white female lesbian. I almost said fat. I think she is. Mayor. Just degenerate cities. College towns, music towns, but liberal. Even if he turns all those cities from deep blue Democrat communists to real non-RINO Republicans, he turns Texas bright red. Even with that, who even, let's say, Texans start to love and support the Confederate flag again, rather than calling me up and calling, Billy from Texas as if he's representative of Texans. I don't think he is. I banned him from the show, so he can't call in right now. He won't even apologize. If the Texas starts to love Southern honesty and Southern decency, Southern hospitality, Southern pride, Southern heritage, the South is just reviled, scapegoated like the Jews were in Nazi Germany, is from what I heard. As the haters, right? No, not Southern Comfort. Got to get over the liquor. But let's say everybody wakes up. You and I have to each be perfect ourselves, because it's nice. It's so encouraging that Trump is president in these times. But the liberals are the ones who want all to be well with the world when nothing is right with them within. They don't have peace. And we, too, are, in effect, liberals when we don't have our inner world perfect and at peace ourselves. It's the same with us. We have to overcome and be perfect. Otherwise, it's not going to last. You can't rest on your laurels. That's what the Gen X and the boomers did with and older did with Ronald Reagan. Oh, they thought, conservatism is coming back. Ronald Reagan. And then we're like we're the worst ever now, after that. Accepting homosexuality and all that stuff as good. Just the insanity is ridiculous. Off the charts, worse than ever, seemingly, right? In America, I think that we're at a low point. And yet, there's hope. Look at who's president. He's like a decent guy in terms of just telling the truth. So about this outside world, Ted Cruz sounding the alarm on Republicans losing Texas. He better have supported Allen West. I have never heard Ted Cruz comment on Allen West. But he's talking about in 2020, it's all over if they win, if the Democrats win. And because Donald Trump right now, according to the Daily Mail, and I got this from Drudge, right? And you guys say, stop quoting Drudge. I don't, whatever. They're saying that Trump has a microscopic lead over Joe Biden. I don't buy it necessarily, but I do acknowledge, and you guys know it, that a lot of the young people, and including a bunch of the boomers, right, are lost, brainwashed, liberal, anti-American people. And some of them are well-meaning people. He warned at the GOP state convention that if Democrats win the Lone Star State, the White House and Senate are gone. If Democrats win Texas, it's all over, he said in a video. I don't know if I believe him. Honestly, it's a good warning to be like, hey, watch out. This is coming. This is happening. People are evil. They're trying to turn Texas blue. But, he was doing this virtual speech, right? Because they can't do an in-person speech because of COVID or whatever. But he posted this thing on Twitter on Sunday. He said it's an all-out political assault. He recalled one from 2 years ago when he was almost unseated by Beto O'Rourke, the Democrat, the guy who says, heck yes. Well, he didn't say heck, he said hell. He said, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47, and Joe Biden wants to put him in charge of the Second Amendment. Beto O'Rourke. Such a joke now, huh? That's an Irish name, by the way. The last name. What a disgrace. He said every one of those crazy, angry leftists that showed up in 2018, they're showing up in 2020, and they're even angrier, Cruz warned. Well, that's bad on them to be angrier. As long as we're perfect, we're not going to be suckers. Like that man who was provoked to anger against his wife, and then he lost. Let's not be like that. The Texas Republican, that's Ted Cruz. I used to think he was so solid. but next to Trump, he's kind of a phony politician. And I still support him when he's right, but it's just, He pointed out Joe Biden's like uncomfortably close, right? Supposedly it's a reliably red state. The last 5 Texas polls in a row have shown President Donald Trump and Joe Biden in a virtual tie, according to Cruz. This is a real race. Whatever. Trump is fighting to win, and that is a fact. He is. He just is. Arizona is also in danger. And then I will get to your calls. People wanted to talk about coin shortage and everything. But according to Drudge and The Guardian, once a Republican bastion, Arizona. And Arizona, I know of Arizona as the place where the gangsters, the Mexican gang members from here in LA area, they go, when they get injured or they get in trouble, they go over to Arizona. They do. Or they go to Fontana or wherever, but Fontana being like sort of the boonies, outskirts of, it's past LA County, outside of LA. But they go to Arizona too, to go into hiding or just to get away from here, get away from the troubles around here. But then there's troubles in Arizona too with the Hispanic gangs. So 10 years ago, Arizona enacted one of the, Fontana is getting more ghetto. Arizona enacted one of the strictest and most contentious immigration measures in the nation, the so-called Show Me Your Papers law. I remember what this was called. I remember a specific SB 1080 or something like that. It may not have been those numbers or those letters, but there was a so-called, this is from The Guardian, right? The Guardian is a far-left foreign outlet, right? They say a generation of young Latinos revolted. Hundreds of Latino activists and high school students marched through the streets of downtown Phoenix, Arizona, to protest against a piece of legislation. Oh, it's SB 1070. Hey, I was close. That they believed authorized police to discriminate against anybody who looked like them. Because disproportionately, the Hispanics are the illegals. But they don't want to admit that. We were optimistic that we could stop the then Governor Jan Brewer, who's a decent lady, by the way, pretty tough lady. If you have to have a female governor, let it be Jan Brewer, right? But then why does it have to be a female governor? But anyways, this is a quote from Raquel Terán, who joined the protesters at the state capitol way back in, 2010 or something? We were optimistic that we could stop then Governor Jan Brewer from signing that bill. Obviously, we didn't, but it showed that we have the capacity to mobilize our communities. Reminds me of Black Lives Matter. They believe in mobilizing and protesting and making a scene and being commies rather than being moral, obeying the law, encouraging the community to obey the law, which would have been the best thing for the so-called Latinos that they pretend that they love. They don't. This woman, Raquel Terán, she works in the Capitol building now, where she used to protest. Talk about the fox guarding the hen house. Evil, huh? She was elected as a Democrat in 2018 to represent a majority Hispanic district in the Arizona House of Representatives, State House, right? The decade-long backlash to that immigration law, accelerated by the election of President Donald Trump, right on. And demographic change and population growth is reshaping the state's political landscape, turning one of the last conservative bastions of the Southwest. California used to be Republican. Did you know that? California used to be mostly Republican. Dang. Into a key place. He doesn't know that. I was like, sure. Into a key place that could determine the control of the White House and the Senate. With less than 4 months until the election, polls show Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden ahead of the President Trump in Arizona. And Trump won in 2016 by fewer than 4 points. 4 percentage points over Hillary Clinton. Shows you how lost Arizona is. And honestly, Arizona, they've been lost for some time. Think about who was the senator from Arizona for, decades? John McCain. John McCain is not a Republican, or wasn't a Republican when he was alive. He was a RINO. And you know who else? Jeff Flake. Wasn't Jeff Flake from Arizona? He was another anti-Trump guy. So Arizona has been RINO for some time. That shows you that weakness only exacerbates and gets worse and becomes total evil. I mean, weakness is evil, right? Kristen Sinema, wasn't she? I don't want to say, but I think that she may have been at least aligned with the LGBTQ stuff, if not one of them herself, meaning brazenly unashamed. Anyways, they're saying young Latino voters are casting their votes in record numbers. They did in 2018. And they joined white so-called moderates. It shows you that, moderates, yeah, right. Shows you that The Guardian is fake news because they think that it's moderate to vote for Kristen Sinema over a Republican. Anybody voting for a Democrat, you're not a moderate. You just aren't. You may be a sucker. You may be a moderate-minded, but a sucker and just ignorant. But you're not a moderate. Anyways, I'm going to take a quick break. It is 10:01 a.m. Take a few minutes. I'll be right back. Hang tight, guys. I will get to the calls and the rest more super chats. I want to talk about this St. Louis couple charged and these black females all rallying together, acting like they love one another and love anybody else, and they want equality and real justice. It's such a joke. Anyways, I'll be back. Hang tight, guys. Guys, Tucker Carlson is the second most hated man in America, I say. In terms of the people who are on a huge stage, national household names, Tucker Carlson is the second most hated man in America. Behind, of course, President Trump, who is the first most hated man in America. And, if you would have done a survey 10 years ago, he would have been pretty much well-liked by pretty much everybody. He wasn't too political, so even though we knew that he was pretty liberal back then, we gave him a pass. We being, the conservatives, kind of liked him. He was right about some stuff. China, he's been harping on China. Yeah, Trump is number one, the most hated man in America. And, they're both most hated for being right, for telling the truth. Isn't that so interesting? I covered this in Hake News, end of hour one, and then I will get to the stuff that I mentioned I'm going to get to. And then I will get to calls. There was one guy who wanted to talk about the coin thing. I was going to get to him, but he hung up. No patience. No, I'm kidding. That's fine. So Tucker was doxxed, allegedly, by the New York Times. And he said it. I believe it. I don't trust the New York Times. They're sleazy people. They're horrific people. They are the same ones who supported communism. They probably, I don't remember specifically, but they probably, like the rest of the media, I cracked a little bit, supported the overturning of apartheid, right, in South Africa. And in replacement of apartheid, which was basically, wasn't it just segregation, right, by government law, where the blacks had to be separated from the whites? In South Africa, whites have always been a minority there, right, or have been a minority for some time now. Replaced with the communist leaders, such as that sleazy man that they pretend is a hero, who died. Obama spoke at his funeral, and this goofy sign language man was just, black dude who was making a fool of himself, not even signing real language next to Obama while he gave his speech. Nelson Mandela, a commie, right? Wasn't he a communist? I think. Definitely a socialist, and, the liberals supported that. And his wife, Winnie Mandela, supported, from what I've heard, they certainly didn't speak out strongly against it, I don't think, necklacing of blacks who were not for their cause, right? Blacks who were suspected of being for loving white people. Aren't you supposed to love everybody? You commie? And so look at South Africa now. It's destroyed. Everybody's suffering. The murder rate is through the roof. Black on black violent crime through the roof, and black on white violent crime through the roof in South Africa. And it is not just simple, I shoot you because you won't give me your purse type of crime only. It's not only that type of crime. It's like torture. It's really like war crime type stuff. Only it's peace crime. Peace crimes are worse than war crimes, I say, because they're done by a bunch of liberals who look the other way. Oh, abortion's not murdering babies in the womb. It's legal murder. It's murder, but we need to keep it because women have the right to choose what to do with their body. No, it's cruel and unusual punishment of both the women and the children and the doctors on their consciences, violating their Hippocratic oath. But like I told you, I alluded to this headline that I saw a year or two ago about Cape Town, like almost running out of water. Talk about mismanagement by the government. They replaced the whites with the blacks. And they're not decent-minded blacks like Jesse Lee Peterson or Alan West. No, they're commies. They're different levels of socialists, right? Different levels of brazen anti-white people. Angry, evil black people. And same thing, they supported communist takeovers in other countries, including, like, didn't they support the Holodomor or something like Holodomor. I don't know how to pronounce it, but basically like where they took away land from some people, and so people who didn't know how to run the land didn't know how to run it, and so people were starving in this country, and it was mass starvation. And this New York Times writer or some guy said, "Oh, it's not that bad. People are hungry, but they're not starving." Just denial of what's going on. Same thing happening in South Africa. Oh, the whites' land isn't being taken away. Oh, the whites aren't being murdered. The murders are mostly against blacks. So deceptive. That's the media for you, fake news media. So New York Times, another fake news media, long-standing fake news media, not respectable at all. They, according to Tucker Carlson, have doxed Tucker. And they deny it, right? But I don't believe them. They're not trustworthy people. They're dishonest people. So Tucker recounted how previously a left-wing journalist published his home address, and Antifa showed up while he was out, his wife hiding in the closet, calling 911, and I think his kids were home. They vandalized his beautiful driveway with a crazy, stupid anarchy symbol. And a beautiful driveway. Washington, D.C., I think is where he lives or lived, has some beautiful areas, and yet it has some crazy, out-of-control crime. High black population, lots of probably so-called poverty brought on by their immorality. Same thing that causes their crime. Poverty does not cause crime, by the way. He has 4 kids, by the way. That's not too bad. Tucker Carlson, right on. But Washington Examiner reported about, on his Fox News show last night, Tucker Carlson talked about the New York Times. They hate my politics, is what he said. They want this show off the air. If one of my children gets hurt, they don't mind. That's part of the point. Just shut him up. And so he named the names. I'm going to name the names that he named. Murray Carpenter, which is a sleazy-looking guy, left-wing journalist that New York Times hired, according to him, to write this story. A photographer, Tristan Spinsky. And I've written these names down. I haven't looked them up to confirm the spelling or anything like that. But is a photographer, right? Taking pictures, maybe of his home or whatever. And he also named the media editor, Jim Wendoff. I'm putting this in the Hake News section of my website. But, you know, you can watch the segment. It's a great segment. Many of you guys have already seen it. And Tucker is breaking, he's like on top as far as cable news shows. It's like the best ever. Highest rated viewers ever. 4 million viewers tuning in most nights. Usually it's like, for other shows, it used to be like 3 million. And then the second and third place gets like 2 million or 1 million or whatever. Sometimes 800,000 watching. I don't know how they measure it, but record-breaking TV show because he's telling the truth. And as he wrote one time, I think he wrote in Politico or the Daily Beast. I think it was Politico, which is a left-wing outlet. But he wrote an article and it was published by Politico. The truth is thrilling. Because he was talking about, this was in 2015 or 2016, he was talking about President Trump and how President Trump is inspiring a lot of enthusiasm, or was back then, because he would tell the truth, and the truth is thrilling, is what he said. And it's true. So his show, too, is pretty thrilling. And it's a shame that they got rid of his writer, Blake Neff. I covered that young man on my show, some of the stuff that he said, according to CNN. You know, CNN is a sleazy, hateful outlet, right? And they published stuff that was not politically correct that Blake Neff said. And Tucker, to his credit, didn't call it racist or sexist. He called it wrong. But he has the right to be wrong and inappropriate online. If there's any place to be inappropriate, it's online. And also, like, with your friends in the privacy, you know, whatever. But nowadays, you better not do that if you're working at a place where you could be fired or whatever, because people will dox you. And so Blake Neff, top writer for Tucker Carlson, was doxed. And I'm glad Tucker didn't give any credence to the claims that it was racist and sexist. Unlike the liberal female-run top people at Fox News who fired him or made him resign. Blake Neff, that is, young man. Maybe he'll work for Jesse Lee Peterson. That'd be cool. Blake Neff, hit us up. He's kind of gone into hiding, and I understand that. I also didn't mention that they're trying to accuse him of #MeToo stupid stuff. Did any of you guys fall for the Me Too thing? I think some of you guys did, such as the accusations against Harvey Weinstein. Just because Harvey Weinstein is a sleazy Hollywood, not a Christian, doesn't mean that he victimized these females who are accusing him. They were both evil people getting in bed together, right? Anyways, so I never gave any credence to this Me Too madness. Yeah, Uncle Ricky says, Tucker didn't sexually harass anyone. Exactly. But, you know, I heard that one of the people who accused Tucker of something weird, right? Her accusation doesn't even make sense. Was Kathy Aru, former guest of The Fallen State. And she had such a great rapport with him. I mean, it was kind of cute, you might say, because she's acts like she's a lady, and yet she's a far left liberal, which is very unladylike. And I learned on the Fallen State interview that she's Cuban. She's like Hispanic. I didn't even know. I thought, because they call her the liberal Sherpa. So I thought, oh, maybe she's Tibetan or something like that. Does Sherpa have to do with Tibet? I don't know. But she's one of the people accusing a bunch of people. There's like 2 females accusing Fox News men or males of dumb Me Too stuff. Me Too being a reference to sexual misconduct, right? And they're suing these people. And of course, to his credit, Tucker didn't make any mention of it, at least not yet. But I think Ed Henry, another guy, a likable guy on Fox News, I guess he's gone. I guess he's out in Fox News. He was another one of the men who was accused in a so-called rape in a brutal lawsuit. Brutal lawsuit, yeah. Meaning, like, men are presumed guilty even after being proven innocent. It's so ridiculous. Skip says, hey, Ray Charles could see that Harvey was guilty. Of what? Because these females, they put so-called career, and they admit it. Even Hollywood's movie Bombshell. Hollywood made this movie, right? Bombshell, with Margot Robbie and you know, other like pretty blonde females, right? To be Fox News females. And they make it sound like, oh, you better do this if you want your career to go up. Please have some dignity, female. If that were even true, right? And I guess there are some corrupt areas, such as Hollywood, right? I would imagine, where they do that nasty sleeping around stuff for favors, right? Maybe. If they do it, then they have to accuse, I don't know, decent men like Tucker Carlson of it. Yeah, right. But once you give in a little bit, you have to keep on giving in, I guess, because they gave in and gave up their previous top guy, Bill O'Reilly. Anyways, whatever. It's an attack on men. And, you know, the men got to become perfect, not be having sex out of wedlock. You know, it's dangerous to have sex out of wedlock if you're a male, because you could just get accused like crazy, even to just be alone with a woman. Just get accused like crazy. Anyways, so never touch anyone and never be alone with anyone. Oh, man, well, so ridiculous. let me cover this other story. These fake people, RINOs, are also betraying what's right. John Kasich is going to, according to the AP, right? I don't know if I believe it, but I wouldn't put it past him. But if it's true, it's kind of shocking, because John Kasich supposedly was a Republican, and he ran for president as a Republican. He seemed like he would jump around like this and seem like it was hard to watch him, honestly. He seemed like he was on something. I mean, like some type of upper type drug that kept him nervous. He had this weird nervous energy. No, I cannot believe, but I do know that there were people who respected him. What? But he's a RINO, and supposedly he's going to speak at the Democrat National Convention in favor of Joe Biden, who is a joke. They should call him Joke Biden. Ohio, who knew that the governor of Ohio would be a RINO? But he's maybe becoming a full-blown Democrat if this is true. And the Associated Press is a really sleazy activist outlet. By the way, the Associated Press, they're going to capitalize the word black in reference to black people, blacks. Well, I don't think they'll use the term blacks because that's not politically correct, I guess. Or whites. They're going to say black people with a capital B. And I heard that they're not going to capitalize white people. White and white people. But they shouldn't capitalize either one. It's just a reference to what race they are. It's not a capitalization. Did you know, you guys probably know this, some of you do, that the seasons, the 4 seasons, are not capitalized. The term summer is not a proper word. It's not a proper name, I mean. It's not capitalized. Summer, winter, spring, fall, autumn is the same thing as fall, right? You don't capitalize those words. Nor do you capitalize white or black person. But they're starting to capitalize it. Kissing up, because this is a common practice amongst the black radicals, to capitalize the term black. I guess to distinguish it from the color black or whatever. It's so ridiculous. And AP, I remember several years ago, I've told this story, they abandoned the term illegal alien. It's demeaning. So they're not, and they also call transgender people by the wrong pronoun. They call them by the pronoun that they want to be referred to as. And yet, so they respect what the transgenders want to call themselves. But do they respect what the pro-lifers want to call themselves? No, they call them pro-lifers. Do they respect what the whites call themselves? No, they call them neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Which I've never heard a white call himself, no matter how radical, a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist. I've never heard it. But they call them that because they call the people that they hate whatever they want to call them. But they call the people that they're pretending to love, which they also hate, the transgender people, they support them in their delusion that they're a different gender than they actually are. Same thing with this black thing, kissing up to the blacks. So these AP are a bunch of weak, fake activist people. They're not a legitimate news source. You can use them, you can get some legitimate news out of it, but just be aware that they're activists. Same thing with Reuters. And I harp on them because I harp on these organizations such as AP, Reuters, because the way that the website is set up oftentimes, it's presented as it's straight news. And a lot of people like republish AP's articles. You see Breitbart doing it and everybody. But they are activists. They're not journalists. I mean, you could call them journalists, but journalism with an agenda, an evil agenda, a radical agenda. Shout out to that man who got smeared as the crying Nazi. He was on my show. Did you know that? Christopher Cantwell was on my show one time. Shout out to Dylon, my former de facto producer. But John Kasich, a coward. And you know who else is weak? And this man was a guy who I tried to get on to the Jesse Lee Peterson show. And it's very interesting. Maybe he wasn't such a good man after all. This guy, George Will. Would you Google a picture of this guy, George Will, for me? Google a picture of John Kasich, too. John Kasich is Joel's going to show it to you. Kasich. Kasich? He's the one with the pockmarked face. He looks young and immature. And then George Will looks like he has dignity, but don't be fooled. He doesn't. He hates Trump. If you hate Trump, you hate America. And it's no wonder that America's been sliding, because George Will has been like a respected so-called conservative. Whoa. I'm saying, seeing Dr. Phil the Showers says, Cantwell is a filthy Fed snitch. Oh, I hope that's not true. They call him a Fed. He's kind of radical. I mean, I think he's just angry and out of control, guys. There are people like that. But here's pictures of John Kasich, a Trump hater. He has spiky hair. Well, at one point, he used to comb it. But, yeah, he almost looks a little dignified there. I guess you can see why he was elected governor by the shallow people of Ohio. But, yeah, he's so fake. And then George Will is every bit as fake as John Kasich. George Will, he was a longtime writer. He says he's voting for Biden. Look at this man in these glasses, kind of old looking, almost like oh gosh, that's silly. Almost like a little bit tougher, more, less friendly, which is a good thing, right? Of a, what's that guy's name? Of a Mr. Rogers, right? Mr. Rogers is nice, but he's like too nice looking, like too soft, right? This guy, George Will, he looks like he's a no-nonsense type of person. Well, he's a nonsense type of person because he hates Trump. He's a fake. He's a cuck. And by that, I mean he's betraying what's right in favor of, and betraying the country, honestly, in favor of evil. You hate Trump, you hate the country. Really. Far-left radical homosexual outlet, The Raw Story. I think of it as a radical homosexual outlet, The Raw Story. It's a website founded by John K. Byrne, who also founded a anti-AIDS nonprofit. So it makes me think that I was correct in my thinking about this Raw Story outlet. But it's treated as a legitimate news source. But anyways, I got this from Drudge. It links to this Raw Story article. It's the first time that he'll ever cast a vote for a Democrat in his life, according to Raw Story, which is at times fake news. So I don't know if that's true. But the Pulitzer Prize winning, this guy won a Pulitzer Prize. Washington Post columnist George Will was interviewed at the Aspen Institute on Monday by USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page. And she said it'll be the first time that he'll cast a vote for Democrat since he started voting Republican when Barry Goldwater ran for president in 1964, and he would have been 23 back then. He's 29 today. I should be looking this way. So it looks like I'm looking at the pictures. Back in 1964, Barry Goldwater. I don't know anything about Barry Goldwater. I'd heard the name before, mentioned by other radio hosts over the years. I've listened to conservative radio hosts as a younger adult when I was in college and after college a little bit with my brother and stuff. Well, oh, thank you. Appreciate that. He switched the sides. This man is 79 years old, a Trump hater. Talk about, that's the wrong time to be a hater. George Will. He's been an independent since 2016 after Trump came on the scene and exposed him as a fraud. That's what I say. By the way, about this John K. Byrne guy, because I hate to be smearing Raw Story just with my false impression. John K. Byrne, born March 24th, 1981, 39 years old. It's just over my age. Nonprofit director, co-owner of Raw Story Media and Alternate Media, far-left outlets, which publish online so-called progressive, meaning commie, political so-called news sites, rawstory.com and alternate.org. He's also founder and executive director of Prevention 305, a nonprofit focused on increasing access to HIV prevention drugs in Miami, Florida area. How about morality? That's like what I was talking about with you about the whites being just degenerates. Oh, some of the stuff you guys are saying about John Kasich and stuff. Goldwater is not a Christian, according to Skip. Or was. I don't know. But there was this so-called conservative resurgence. And it may not have been conservative, back decades ago. Another hater of Obama was Bill Kristol. William Kristol. Krystol or something like that. Or Kristol. Kristol. Another guy that I never respected this guy. I mean, in terms of like his thinking that his views were somebody that I should listen to and pay attention to. He was just always a standard thinking person. I'd seen him on TV, right? There he is, Bill Kristol. His father, I learned from watching Bill Lockwood, the great Bill Lockwood, or listening to him. His father wrote the book on neoconservatism. Did you know that? Irving Kristol, Bill Kristol's father, wrote a book called Neoconservatism. And you guys, there's a lot of hatred towards neocons by the right. The people who are America first, the true America first people. Because neocons are historically like globalists. They're not for real conservative values, especially not morals. They hate morals. They're like, oh, don't talk about that stuff. Let's just win and talk about economics. And no, sleazy people. Reminds me of the libertarians. And, libertarians are sometimes nice, but these people, no, they'll stab you in the back, just like what they did with Trump. So, did you know that Irving Kristol, the father of Bill Kristol, according to, what's that guy's name? Who comes on the show last Tuesday of the month? Mr. Coffee received a 1-month subscription from Dr. Phil the Showers. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. And congratulations, Mr. Coffee. Thank you, Dr. Phil the Showers. Dark Side of the Bear What gave a diamond and said fentanyl is stronger than heroin. Basically legal, though. It's crazy. Fentanyl. And that's what George Floyd had in his system. Except it's legal. Except you're not supposed to take it if you don't have a prescription, right? But that is an opioid, right? Dr. Phil the Showers says, black excellence, fat excellence, gay excellence. Oh, I almost forgot. I have to tell you guys about these black females. Thank you for reminding me. Maybe I'll just call this guy Dr. Phil for short, because that sounds like a reference that might be unsavory, right? Pyrus77, but I appreciate your constant support, Dr. Phil TS. Oh, man, because you guys make a joke about stuff, and the mainstream is like, you're not supposed to joke about that. That's hatred. Anyways, Pyrus777 says, oh, no, he just resubbed for 3 months. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. 4-month streak, too. Hot Computer Smell says, Arizona, AZ, is trying to fight the beta blue flu. Yeah, referring to them becoming Democrats. Thank you to Jesse Lee Peterson hosting the Hake Report on his D-Live channel. Subscribe to him if you're not already. Thank you to Stylosopher for gifting a subscription to Andrew J. And thank you to Andrew J. Oh, yeah. Shout out to Andrew J. You're welcome to subscription status. I think you already may have been one. Okay, so enough about these supposed white males betraying the country. Long-standing. John Kasich is too old to be betraying the country like that and being all petty. So is George Will, who's 79 years old. Let me tell you about these. Okay, so you know about this Seattle, I keep on wanting to say Seattle, STL, St. Louis, this couple that was charged for holding guns, they were Black Lives Matter supporters, they said. These lawyer couple who were restoring and refurbishing and renovating a beautiful old home. Oh my gosh, inside of their home in St. Louis, Missouri, inside of a gated community. It might have been a gated property too, that these Black Lives Matter supporters kind of stormed on and walked across on their driveway or little road path or whatever. And they held guns. One guy, the old man had an AR. I call it old, but the boomer or old-looking Gen Xer had an AR-15, and the woman, his wife, I think, had a little gun, ladylike gun. She was waving it around, not very ladylike. But, you know, Black Lives Matter was scaring them. And, you know, the cops are not going to protect you because it's a liberal-run city, and they don't want the cops to protect the good people from the evil people. So they are charged with felony weapons count. That's ridiculous. And, you know, I saw a tweet from this liberal guy. He's a liberal professor or law expert, right? That he appears on Fox News sometimes, Jonathan Turley. And he said, oh, yeah, they can charge these people, but it's not really a strong case at all. So I'm glad to hear that. But they emerged from their mansion in that gated community, aimed weapons at protesters, right? Charged with one felony count of unlawful use of a weapon by, I think, a black female prosecutor. I think. Lawyers Marc McCloskeys, 61, and Patricia McCloskeys, 63, those count as boomers, right? Have said that they were merely defending their home. Ermia says yes, he disowns them as Gen X, and rightfully so. Yeah, I think you have to be in your early to late 50s. Yeah, she is black. Oh, okay. I thought he was talking about the boomer thing. Yeah, Kim Gardner, St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, who's been under investigation actually recently, right? But they say it's racially motivated. I'm going to get to that. She filed the charges against the McCloskeys. She did not order the couple to surrender or be arrested. Instead, as part of Gardner's reformist approach to reducing incarceration for low-level crimes, she issued them summonses and said they would consider them for a diversion program. Isn't that ridiculous? Talk about putting a diversion program, meaning you have to go to community service or get retrained about not pointing guns at people who, in some cases, may have been threatening their lives. I don't know. I don't know what the real story is of what went on in that confrontation. But that's Kim Gardner, okay? And so the Attorney General of Missouri happens to be a Republican, meaning he's at least pretends to be for actual justice, and his name is Eric Schmidt. He said the prosecution was a political prosecution in St. Louis. Very true. Everything a woman like Kim Gardner does is political. Short-haired. Oh my gosh. Google Kim Gardner for me. Gardner, I think. Kim Gardner. Short hair. I mean, there's one picture of her with longer hair looking like a lady, but this other, she looks like a Black Lives Matter activist, which really is what she is, honestly. The couple were charged after brandishing their guns at protesters back in June. Wow. They say it was self-defense, and so does Schmidt, but the St. Louis prosecutor called it illegal. Yeah, zoom in on this. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, there's ways to look ladylike, even if you are a little overweight or whatever, but she doesn't want to do it. Or she doesn't have the sense to do it, right? The so-called prosecutor, Kim Gardner, black female. And a radical, leftist, liberal, anti-gun, anti-white. Governor Mike Parson tweeted out in the couple's defense, too. So at least there's a little bit of light inside of Missouri. Okay, so is that her?
Yeah.
Which one?
On the right with the long.
The one with the back to her? Oh, the one with the red shirt. That's her?
Yeah.
Oh, she looked more ladylike. She looked kind of like the one that Obama said was the prettiest attorney general. Kamala Harris. Okay, I'm going to get to your calls, but real fast. Okay, I have these pictures, Joel. Prosecutors. Okay, yeah. At least she's wearing a dress. Kind of. But I have these pictures in this folder. Crazy prosecutors, black females, Joel. That's the name of the folder. I got this from St. Louis Post and Dispatch. It's called St. Louis Today, stltoday.com. January 2020. After Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, this is kind of what hell looks like. Prosecutors converge in St. Louis in support of Circuit Attorney Gardner amid investigation. So this Circuit Attorney Kimberly M. Gardner, this happened several months back, right? The people holding signs, you know, blacks and liberals. There's a liberal white-looking woman maybe saying, "I stand with CA, Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner." They filed a federal lawsuit. She filed a federal lawsuit alleging a racist conspiracy against her. Reminds me of Colin Kaepernick. And look, okay, I think this is her at the mics. Joel is showing you pictures. There's a whole crew of blacks, right? Including males there. But there's a whole crew of blacks, a whole posse, holding their "I stand with Kim Gardner" signs. This began at the beginning of the year, right? This took place. And right behind her is this infamous female named Marilyn Mosby. And Marilyn Mosby is not supposed to be from the city of St. Louis, Missouri, where this Kim Gardner woman is. There's actually, in fact, a bunch of black females behind. Yeah, the one with the curly hair, the one that looks kind of pretty. Marilyn Mosby. She was the one who charged the 6 officers in the death of Freddie Gray, the drug dealer. You know, she tried to accuse them of giving Freddie Gray a rough ride and all kinds of stuff, including black cops, by the way, just a side note. But injustice against whites is acceptable. Injustice against blacks and people of color and minority-owned businesses is a no-no. But you can loot white-owned businesses. I'm deviating a little, but that's her from back in 2015. She's talking like she knows what she's talking about. She's a disgrace, but she's an activist. Back when the Freddie Gray situation, that was another Black Lives Matter riots over in Baltimore, Maryland. She was the Baltimore state's attorney in Maryland, right? And she flew over here to show her support for Kim Gardner, another black woman. The Sisterhood, right? Listen to this. A half dozen female prosecutors from California, Florida, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Virginia, a self-described sisterhood. Imagine if white men flew around saying, "We're a brotherhood," and they call themselves reform-minded public officials. Joined supporters in St. Louis to rally for Kim Gardner, whose office has been under investigation during a perjury case of a man hired to investigate former Governor Eric Greitens. Eric Greitens is a man who became Republican in 2015. And I guess he was a former governor of Missouri. But look at these black women all smiling and laughing and being sweet looking. And listen to this quote from Marilyn Mosby, Baltimore state's attorney, who flew over to show support. And it's politically motivated support. It's not for what's right. Kim, referring to Kim Gardner, like the others that stand before you today, has challenged the status quo, and the keepers of the status quo don't like that, which is why she's being personally and professionally attacked. We are all here to tell Kim and everyone else that we shall not only overcome, but collectively, which is a commie term, collectively, we shall prevail in reforming the criminal justice system. And when they say criminal justice reform, they mean letting criminals out, because they're just female-oriented, female-minded people that just soft on crime, hard on whites and men. You know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. In addition to Mosby, prosecutors who traveled to support Gardner showed those group pics of these women. Again, were Diana Beckton from Contra Costa County, California. Contra Costa County, that's the short-haired woman who looks a little bit older. She's the one also oh no, she's not. And also Aisha Braveboy from Prince George's County, Maryland. Stephanie Morales from Portsmouth, Virginia. Aramis Ayala from Orlando, Florida area. And Rachel Rollins from Suffolk County, Massachusetts. So they all teamed up and supported each other. It's crazy. And they came to the St. Louis to rally against what they viewed as efforts by police, the courts, and the legal community to resist Gardner's agenda to overhaul the criminal justice system in favor of minorities. And, you know, this Baltimore State's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, let people out of jail in Baltimore, too. And the crime is, like, up. Anyways. They claim that they were blocked by judges, their reform efforts, right? Blocked by judges, as if Trump hasn't been blocked by judges more than them, right? Receiving so-called racist hate mail. They're the ones who are so-called racist. Look at them. Sisterhood. And death threats, as if anybody in the public eye who takes a strong stance on anything doesn't get death threats. Everybody gets death threats. Please. It's not news. Gardner has claimed similar treatment during her first term. This is not just about criminal justice reform, Gardner said. This is the new civil rights movement. And you know what the first one did? It was not good. Blacks are worse off for it. In her federal lawsuit that was filed way back in January, Gardner alleged a conspiracy to thwart and impede her efforts to establish equal treatment under the law for all St. Louis citizens. Yeah, right. These people are not for real justice. And so she's accusing the city of St. Louis Police Officers Association, and its longtime business manager, a former cop who sued her office, Gerard Carmody and his children, who are private attorneys appointed as special prosecutors to investigate her office's handling of Greiten's inquiry. You know, these black liberal females, and honestly, all of these liberal communists, I just call them communists, right? Shamelessly attack groups of white men. You see a group of white men in leadership, oh, look at that group of white men, how racist. Being like for what, you know, only for white male interests. That's not true. These black females are doing the very evil that they're accusing others of. Isn't that interesting? Bunch of black females doing the black female thing. And it's for what they believe in, which is, you know, they believe in evil. It's crazy. So, you know, I think that the whites should be equally shameless, but for what's right. Let me get to KT. He's been on hold for a little bit out of Washington, D.C. KT, it's good to hear from you.
Hey, what's going on, James? It's been a while.
I know.
Good to hear from you, too.
Right on. I'm glad you got in.
Oh, yes. I know the last time I was on, I was talking about, you know, the cops and the whole COVID-19.
Right.
And, you know, I'm kind of glad what's happening right now. You know, I'm kind of glad it's happening to the cops, because the cops need to wake up themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
Because,
yep.
You know, the cops have been complacent for the past, I don't know, for a long time.
You know, cops are very well paid.
That's the thing. That's the thing, Hake.
Yeah.
That's why I say when people, you know, when I talk to people about this, I tell them most cops I know or I've met only care about their pay, their salary, and their pensions and the benefits they get.
Yeah.
You know, that's all they care about. And, you know, they call me, oh, you don't love the cops. No, I love the cops. I'm not anti-cop.
Right.
But, you know, what's happening to them now needs to happen so that they can open their eyes and they can change, and, you know, they can start, you know, doing what they were, you know, what their job is to do, to uphold the Constitution.
Yes.
That's what they need to do.
Yep.
And they've not been doing that for a long time. So it's great. I'm very happy it's happening to them right now. But anyway, so I just wanted to, you know, talk about how pathetic white people are. Most white people, not all.
Yeah.
You know, it's just pathetic. You know, James, I live in a county that's 98% white.
Nice.
98% white. You know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful out here. The grass is cut. You know, they cut their grass 3 times a week. It's beautiful. You know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I've noticed is their kids. There was a Black Lives Matter rally for a whole week, 2 weeks ago, in this county. You'll never believe it. This county in 2016 voted 95% for Trump.
Wow.
And 1% voted for Hillary Clinton, and the other 3 or 2% did not vote at all.
Yeah.
But they voted 98% Donald Trump. But what we're saying now is their kids, their offspring, there's high school kids, there's college kids, are Black Lives Matter. They're coming out here, protesting and, marching in the streets for Black Lives Matter. I was so shocked. I was like, what is going on in this? I was really.
You're saying that they were marching with the Black Lives Matter evil people?
No, they were in the streets holding up signs for Black Lives Matter.
Oh, so they were supporting.
Yeah, they were supporting Black Lives Matter.
That is insane.
It is insane. The parents are super conservative, but the kids are super liberal.
Yep.
You know?
And you can chalk that up to the bad parents. You can say, "Oh yeah, the schools are corrupt, and the social media establishment supports the brainwashing of kids too." Social media. You go on Facebook or anywhere, they're promoting Black Lives Matter and all that madness, right? Just pure evil.
Exactly.
But you have to blame the parents. You're right.
Exactly. It's the parents. It has to be the parents.
Yeah.
And you know what I think? I think what's going to happen is America's going to fall. In order for America to come back to what it used to be, it has to fall, I think. And that's just my opinion. I think it's going to fall, and then it'll get back to what it used to be.
But don't you think it's already fallen? It's fallen majorly.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's almost there, but it's not over the cliff yet.
So what is over the cliff in your mind, or what do you mean by their fall? What do you mean by America has to fall? What's that?
You see what's happening now. You know, the whole hate crime laws already taking place. Remember, we were talking about hate crime laws 10 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now they're already in place in certain counties.
Yep.
You know, if we see that overall in America, then for me that would be a sign of the fall.
Yeah.
Some places are fighting back, but
But hate crimes, many so-called hate crimes laws have been in effect, on a federal level for ages. And hate crimes, just so everybody knows, are a smear and an attack on whites, Christians, men. It's a pretense of justice, and it's basically an attack on the First Amendment, meaning you say the N-word while attacking a black dude, then suddenly it's a hate crime that can enhance the attack on you. You have the freedom of speech to say the N-word. It's not advisable necessarily. You don't have the freedom to hit the person. You hit them, you get punished, and it should be swift, hard punishment for crimes. But It's not. Justice is not swift in this country. So, yeah. So hate crimes are a farce, and they're very selectively enforced against whites. Yeah.
That's very true. You see, actually in this county I live in, about 2-3 years ago, these little white kids were, they drew a swastika on the high school, on the wall of a high school. Oh my gosh! Hey, you would think the world was going to end.
Yeah.
All the blacks. I don't know. There are no blacks in this county, but I don't know where they came from. But they all came out of the woodwork. And it was a big deal,
It's so ridiculous, and most likely, the kid is not even into the Nazi stuff at all. He just thinks it's funny.
Exactly right. And they suspended them. They charged them for a hate crime. They ruined their lives.
That is so ridiculous. That's insane. Insanity and kissing up and fear running the world.
Yeah. But yeah, I just called to just say that.
Yeah.
And, we're just here fighting. Continuing to fight. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad that that you see what's going on and speaking up about it. I hope you're able to tell some of your neighbors, warn them, be like, hey, your kids you've lost your kids.
I would love to say that. I would definitely love to say that.
And happy White History Month. Your history.
I don't even want to tell them White History Month because I mean, it's just pathetic the way, their kids are coming out.
Yeah.
You know?
And these are Trump supporters. I mean, it's so common.
Trump supporters, yeah.
Yeah. It's so common for, Christians or conservative activists to raise their kids, and the kids end up rebelling from that because they're not right in their thing. They're just trying to make the outer world right when they're not right themselves. It's crazy.
Yep.
I appreciate it, KT. It's good to hear from you, man.
All right. Thanks, James.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.
So, thank you to Paulie J. Gave a diamond. Appreciated that, man. Congratulations to the people who won, like Take Care Business Bear, Fan of the Ladies, Zona Bologna, Base America First, Base AF, Blogert, for the Lemons redistribution, the Obama chest. Philosopher, Pyrus 777, Dr. Phil T.S., Paulie J., Someone Get Bill, Ev Jenny Crosby 2020, Hot Computer Smell, Dark Side of the Bear, what? Verified partner of D-Live. Skip McBurney, thank you, man. Noah's Arkansas, appreciate you guys. And we have just a couple of minutes left. Let me tell you about, let me just respond to a couple of things that I happened to see. Mr. Coffee, I think it was towards the end of the first hour, Mr. Coffee on the chat in D-Live said, Corona is real. It's a bioweapon. It is way overblown, though. And that might be true, this bioweapon thing. It may have been developed in a Chinese lab, right? And Zona Bologna says, I swear the people who got the flu shot are the main ones at risk. Yeah, I do not trust the flu shot. And it's so ridiculous. I've told you, and so I've had callers call in and talk about how one guy used to be a nurse, a registered nurse or something like that, right? And he eventually quit because they were trying to force him over the recent years, just in the last 10 years or a little bit more, to start getting the flu shot in order to just be working as, in the hospital. So insane. The Fan of the Ladies says flu shots are a scam. I really think so too, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist type of a guy. Shorty Shrew says Jan Brewer was great. Yes. So Jan Brewer was the governor of Arizona. I don't know who's the governor anymore of Arizona, but who else I think about when I think of Arizona? Brother Dean Saxton. You guys know about him? He's a street open air preacher guy. He goes on campuses and preaches. You guys are going to hell and stuff like that. You deserve rape. By the way you dress, you guys deserve to be raped. You're asking to be raped, referring to how not very immodestly the college ladies are dressing, and then they have sex and then they cry rape when they don't get the exact type of sex that they want, or they get something that they didn't want, right? Which I can sympathize, right? But it's not, I don't know, it's insane. Anger amongst females is encouraged. Have you noticed? I will never get over my rape. It's going to be haunting me forever. But anger amongst men is not encouraged. Well, it is encouraged, but yet it's attacked as, oh, you just hate women. It's not that they just hate women. They do hate women, but the world is so unjust. They're not for actual justice. They're not for dealing with the actual issue. That's why that guy, he allegedly killed that woman's 20-year-old son, the men's rights activist attorney guy. Because he encouraged anger. He became just like the angry females that encourage anger. General Leia 777. What's up, General Leia 77? I gave an extra 7. Said, weakness can't be judged as evil. Are kittens evil? You say the weirdest stuff, Hake. That's not the kind of weakness that I'm talking about. So I said, weakness is evil, right? It is evil, I think, to be weak. I mean, like moral weakness, when you're surrendering, when you're kissing up to people that you don't need to be kissing up to and stuff like that. Like, such as what Arizona has been doing. They've been promoting RINOs to be their leadership people. That's what I mean by weakness. Like John McCain and Jeff Flake, that's so pathetic. And it was like they're so weak in order to be praised by the media or something. It's so ridiculous. Anyways, I got to end the show. We're overtime. Appreciate you guys. TheHakeReport.com for my stuff. JesseLeePeterson.com for Jesse Lee Peterson's stuff. And from there, you can find the Bond stuff and as well as the Fallen State stuff. Cool, huh? And thegiftedofdance.com. All right, guys, take care. See you tomorrow. This has been a fun Tuesday show. See you tomorrow, Wednesday. Take care.
What?